She texted, "I'm tired of pretending I'm satisfied. You're not enough for me anymore." I wrote, "I understand." Then I let her find out what enough felt like when the rent was due and I wasn't there. Her landlord's eviction notice explained it perfectly. Original post: I, 36, male. Got the text on a Wednesday afternoon while fixing a leaky faucet in the apartment. I share with my girlfriend, her name was Sierra. 34, a self-proclaimed wellness entrepreneur with 1,000 affirmations on her Instagram, but none in her real life. The rest of her message followed a moment later. I'm tired of pretending I'm satisfied. You're not enough for me. I need someone who can actually give me the life I deserve, not just promises and leaky faucets. I just stared at the screen. After everything, covering her half of the rent for almost a year, paying for her coaching certification, bailing her out of overdue bills apparently, I wasn't enough. I didn't respond right away. I just wiped my hands, stood up, looked around the apartment we'd built together out of thrift store furniture and long nights, and typed back 2 words, "I understand." But what I meant was, watch what happens when I stop trying to be enough. The truth was, our lease was ending in 2 weeks. I had already spoken to our landlord, Mr. Peterson, about renewing, but I hadn't signed yet. Sierra assumed I'd take care of it, like I always did. The rent was $2,100, and I paid nearly $1,800 of that each month, while she chipped in $300. Whenever her wellness boutique had a good week, she always promised things would even out once her business took off. 3 years later, I was still waiting for takeoff. That evening, she came home with her speech rehearsed like a TED Talk. She sat across from me, chin up, voice steady. "Liam, I've been reflecting on what I need in life. You're kind, but you're just. Comfortable. I need ambition, passion, a partner who matches my energy." I nodded, took another bite of my dinner, and said calmly, "That works out perfectly, Sierra." I wasn't planning to renew the lease anyway. Her face faltered. "Wait, what do you mean?" "I mean the lease ends in 2 weeks, and I'm not renewing it. But where am I supposed to go?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Not my problem. You said I wasn't enough for you, so go find someone who is." For the first time in a long time, she didn't have a comeback. The silence that filled that room was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. She tried to backpedal, to explain that she didn't mean it that way, but I'd already made up my mind. I spent the next few days packing my tools, calling moving companies, and looking for a new place closer to work. By the end of the week, I had a 1-bedroom lined up across town for $1,400 a month, no roommates, no freeloaders, no motivational quotes taped to the fridge. That's when Sierra's panic began to bloom. She called a landlord behind my back, trying to renew the lease under her name. Mr. Peterson called me, confused. "Your girlfriend wants to stay, but she failed the income check. Says she makes $1,100 a month. The rent's $2,100. That doesn't really add up." I almost laughed. "That's her situation, not mine. I'm moving out. She said you promised to co-sign for her." "Yeah," I said. "She also said I wasn't enough for her. So I guess my signature isn't either." He chuckled, a little uncomfortably. "Well, she's got until the 15th to figure it out." That night, Sierra came home furious. "You told him you wouldn't help me. You're seriously going to leave me homeless?" "Homeless? You have 2 weeks. And you make money, don't you? You said your business was thriving." Her lips trembled. "You're cruel." "No," I said quietly. "I'm just done over the next few days. She cycled through every emotional trick she had, crying, yelling, trying to seduce me, even guilt-tripping me with our memories. But I stayed calm. The faucet was fixed. The rent was due soon. The consequences were coming. And this time, I wasn't going to rescue her by the second week. She had started bringing new guys home, loud, obnoxious, all wearing the same cologne and fake confidence. One of them, some guy named Brandon or Bradley, tried to confront me. "Hey man," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "Sierra says you're being a real jerk about this lease thing." I looked up from my box of books. "Cool, you paying her rent then? What? She needs $2,100 for rent and about $4,000 for a deposit somewhere else. You covering that?" He blinked, speechless. "I just met her." "Then maybe mind your business." He left not long after, and Sierra screamed at me for embarrassing her. I just shrugged. "You did that yourself." When moving day finally arrived, I called the truck early. Everything in that apartment, except for her clothes and laptop, had been bought with my money: the bed, the TV, the couch, the dishes, the coffee maker. She watched, wide-eyed and trembling, as movers carried everything out piece by piece. "You can't just take it all," she said, her voice cracking. "I can, Sierra. I paid for all of it. You got 2 years of free use." By noon, the apartment was stripped bare. Just her clothes, her vision board, and a few empty candles remained. Mr. Peterson showed up to do the final walkthrough. "Miss Sierra," he said gently, "unless you have the deposit and first month's rent, you need to vacate by 5. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "Liam, please. Just 1 month. Help me this once." I shook my head. "No, Sierra. You said I wasn't enough. So now you get to find out what enough feels like without me." As I walked out for the last time, she screamed something after me, but I didn't look back. The sound of my footsteps in the hallway was the most peaceful thing I'd heard in years. That was the day I stopped being her safety net and started being free. Something in her tone felt off. I called the hospital directly. "Hi, I'm checking on a patient, Sierra Bennett." The nurse on the line paused. "No one by that name has been admitted today." I texted Gabriella. "No record of her at the hospital." "Stop lying," she responded. She was going to go, but decided to rest instead. "Sure, rest." A few days after that, a small box appeared outside my door. My name, my new address. Inside, old photos of us, movie ticket stubs, and a folded note: "Remember when you loved me? When I was enough for you? I made a mistake. You're destroying my life over one text. Please, reconsider. Love, Sierra." I stared at the handwriting for a moment, then dropped the entire box into the recycling bin. And still, she didn't stop the next week. I got a call from someone claiming to be Attorney Jameson. "Mr. Bennett," the voice said, "my client, Miss Sierra Bennett, is pursuing legal action for financial abuse and constructive eviction." I smiled. "Really? What's your bar number?" "I'd like to verify you with the state." The line went dead. I laughed out loud, then texted Sierra from a Google Voice number. "Impersonating a lawyer is a crime. Try that again and you'll be speaking to real ones." Silence after that for a while, when she finally resurfaced. "It was through my mother, Liam," Mum said over the phone, her voice tight. "I just got a message from Sierra's mother. She says you abandoned her daughter and left her destitute. Wants me to talk sense into you." "What did you say?" "I told her that real women don't dump their partners for not being rich enough, then expect them to keep paying their rent. I couldn't help but smile. Love you, Mum. But Sierra's persistence was something to behold. She showed up at my father's golf club next, crying, makeup streaked, asking him to convince me to help her. He called me afterward, barely holding back laughter. Son, your ex just tried to get into the clubhouse without a membership, saying you ruined her life. Security escorted her out, but not before she yelled that you're heartless. What did you say? I told her she's lucky you're not heartless enough to press charges. The thing about Sierra was, she didn't understand endings. To her, relationships were elastic things, stretched but never broken. She thought I'd eventually cave, that I'd feel guilty enough to fix everything again. But I wasn't that man anymore. 2 weeks later, she sent reinforcements. Tanya and 2 other women showed up at my workplace. They stood in the lobby, demanding to speak to me. Liam, we need to talk about Sierra, Tanya announced. I stayed behind the security desk. You're trespassing? Not until you agree to help her. She's staying on my couch, and I can't afford to feed both of us. I stared at her flatly. Then tell her to get a job. She's too good for that, the other one snapped. She's an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs who can't pay rent are just unemployed people with websites, I said calmly. Security stepped forward. Ladies, you need to leave now. Tanya pointed at me like I'd committed a crime. This isn't over. It is, I said. That's the whole point. After they left, my boss called me into his office. Liam, he said, I don't know what's happening with your ex, but if she shows up again, we'll help you file for a restraining order. No one should have to deal with that. That was when I realized how far gone she really was, and how much peace I'd been missing until she was out of my life. I had no idea it would still get worse. A month passed. I finally started to breathe again. No calls, no drama, no surprises. Just quiet. Then, one Friday evening, I came home from work to find an envelope taped to my apartment door. My name was written in that same curvy handwriting I'd once thought was beautiful. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Liam, I'm pregnant. It's yours. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. For a full minute, I just stood there, staring at the words, my pulse hammering in my ears. It couldn't be real. It had to be another manipulation. The timing was too perfect, right when I'd stopped reacting. Still, part of me, the small, cautious part that had once loved her, whispered, what if? I sat down, took a deep breath, and texted her from a temporary number. If that's true, send proof. Medical record, ultrasound, your name on it. 10 minutes later, she replied with a blurry photo of an ultrasound dated 3 days earlier. But the name on it. Marina Lewis, not Sierra Bennett. I replied, you didn't even bother to Photoshop your friend's name out, Sierra. Try harder. She didn't respond for hours. Then finally, another message. Fine. I just wanted to see if you still cared. That was it. The last bit of sympathy inside me evaporated. I called my lawyer the next morning and filed a cease and desist letter for harassment. My attorney also drafted a restraining order, just in case. When it was delivered to her address, Sierra posted a video online the next day. She sat in her car, fake crying, claiming she was being silenced and legally threatened by an emotionally abusive ex. The comments were full of sympathy. You're so strong. Girl, he's clearly a narcissist. File a counterclaim. But a funny thing happened. A few people in the comments started recognizing her pattern. Turns out, I wasn't her first victim. There were old screenshots of her doing the same thing to 2 other exes before me. manipulating, playing the helpless damsel when things fell apart by the end of the week. The video had backfired. She turned off the comments, deleted her page, and disappeared again. Months went by this time. No messages, no stunts. I started seeing someone new, Alina, a soft-spoken, grounded woman who made me feel calm just by being near her. And then, one evening, we were out at a cafe downtown when I heard that voice behind me, Liam. I turned, and there she was, Sierra. She looked different, pale, tired. The confidence was gone, replaced by something hollow. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. Alina looked at me, concerned. I shook my head. "No, Sierra. There's nothing left to say." She stepped closer. "Please, I just want to apologize. I lost myself. I made mistakes. I miss you." I took a slow breath. "You don't miss me. You miss control. You miss the version of me that tolerated you manipulating everything." Her eyes filled with tears. "You think I'm a monster. I think you need therapy." And then, softly, Alina said, "Let's go, Liam." We walked away, hand in hand, leaving Sierra standing there under the cafe lights, clutching her purse, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. That was the last time I ever saw her. But sometimes, late at night, when I check my email and see another anonymous message in my spam folder, "Hope you're happy without me," I can't help but smile, because I am, and for the first time in years. That's not something I have to apologize for.